Hi, friends. Nate from the Wonderfully Unhinged podcast here. I wanted to take a moment and let you know that the topics that we covered in today's episode have more weight and are a bit more sensitive. So if you've got young ones with you, it might be a good time to hit pause and make sure that this episode is going to be best suited for those that are around you. We dive into topics that include social media and technology and the ways that there are pitfalls with those things, some of the struggles that parents and young adults are dealing with currently, and even some conversations revolving abuse, self-harm, and different things that we see amplified in the current technological age. We do our best to handle these conversations with a level of sensitivity, but also some lightheartedness and humor like we usually try to bring. It's not lost on us that these are very heartbreaking and difficult times, both for parents and for young ones, whether that's kids who are single digits or all the way up through teens and young adults. So we wanted to just give you a moment to potentially hit pause before we continue today's conversation so that you can make sure that you're in the best setting to receive this type of conversation and the things that surround it. Once again, just thanks so much for joining us. And if you get a moment, please like, share, and subscribe, not only on Facebook, but also YouTube and whatever platforms you receive your podcasts on. It really helps us make sure that the algorithm gets our episodes in front of people that we don't personally know so that we continue to grow an audience and can have opportunities to share these stories with others who might be impacted by them. Once again, thanks so much. Much love, guys. See you soon.
Hey guys, I'm Mike.
I'm Nate.
And welcome back. We're back at it with Wonderfully Unhinged, our podcast here. We've taken a little bit of a break for various reasons from...
Life's been a little unhinged.
Yeah, life has been unhinged, but we have our first four episodes up. Mm-hmm. Would love for you guys, if you haven't had a chance, to go check those out. Give us feedback. Love to hear about it because we're really excited about coming into this next year for what's next. And so... yeah, excited about today's topic and to get into it. So before we do that, man, Nate, let's open it up, brother.
Sounds good. Heavenly Father, we come to you. We just come into complete agreement with your spirit and nothing but that. Lord, we just take a moment to center ourselves in you. We just pause and we invite anyone who would be listening to also pause, God, to just turn themselves away from all of the distractions, from all the things that might be pulling for their attention right now, and to just settle into your presence. Lord, we just ask that you would come and that you would bring clarity, that you would just convey whatever it is that's on your heart through Mike and me today, that you would allow us to articulate the things that you have put into our mind and our vision, and that you would just allow this to be a topic that continues to springboard conversation healthily within families and within just church organizations, all of the ways that we interact, and that we would be able to grow in greater depth in hearing you and in how we walk throughout our lives, Lord. We just call your holy fire and your breath of life to breathe over this, God, to cleanse anything that would potentially be in the way for us or for the listeners. And we just ask that you would come and that your life and your peace would saturate this conversation and would saturate anyone who's listening. We thank you for this opportunity to come together again, and we thank you for anyone who's listening. We love you, and we seal this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Man, that's good. You don't realize you need it to recenter and just, the first hour I get here, we're just like decompressing.
That's right.
Like, I feel like, especially in this season right now with holidays and family and just all that brings up, we're very much in a state of just like, how well are we coping with anxiety? Yeah. And I think that's, to a certain point, life in general. Like, okay, how are we dealing with this? But it kind of can get ramped up. And that's kind of the foundation of what I know I wanted to kind of touch base and get into today. But before we get into it, I feel like we have to maybe set the foundation. Because as I mentioned to you earlier before we were filming, like, I feel like we as a culture, as a society, are in a constant state of offense. Like, we're very much trapped in this cycle of offense. And so now I'm offended, so now I need to defend. Right? And like,
That's right.
like, oh, you're attacking my choice, how I'm parenting, or you're attacking, my job, or just whatever it is. We feel attacked all the time, especially with social media, comments and passive aggressiveness, right? And then I feel like it's kind of our natural response to defend, right? Well, I'm offended, so I'm going to tell you why, you're wrong. And I think it's gotten to the point where now we're being proactively offended, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
Like, we're ready to defend. And because we were already offended, like somebody already attacked, how we're making choices with our family, right? So that offense is still there. So now if anybody asks us about it, like, we're just ready to rip, or we'll Jesus code it, like, well, the Lord's just called us to do this, and if you're not doing it, I think you're going to hell. Like, and and I feel like we need to just, let's take a breath. Let's understand that we're for each other.
Right.
And like, because we're in this hyper constant offense, defend cycle, anytime there is helpful information, anytime there is like breakthroughs with science or anything like that, we immediately get triggered. We immediately get offended. And then we're like, just like, and we're not going to get into it, but like the whole vaccine thing, right?
Sure.
And they come out, and, whether you like the administration or not, whatever, and they're like, hey, this is probably not good, and then like we got people, taking a bunch of, Tylenol or whatever, whatever it was, and like proving a point. And, well, I took it when I was pregnant. And it's like, that's where we're at. Like, we can't even, and let's just take a step back and understand that there was a time in our country, in the United States of America, with our doctors and science and stuff like that, really not that long ago, where smoking was not only socially accepted, like you were allowed smoking in planes.
Yeah.
That there was also a time where it was like prescribed. Like, it was considered healthy.
Interesting.
Because it would like reduce your stress. Like, and then like information started to come out, science started to come out, and people started to die. And then, like, if you've ever seen someone die of lung cancer, you're like, oh man,
it's a brutal death.
That's horrible. And then there was a period of like, so we knew what it was doing, but there was a period where we still were allowed to advertise, still, you know what I mean? And it was like this, well, we're still going to hold on to this, and we're still going to defend it. And then enough people died, and enough heartache happened. And finally we were like, as a culture, we're like, yeah, we can't defend that anymore. So like, now you can't smoke in any restaurant. Like, do you remember?
Yeah, I
like
remember.
The smoking, non-smoking
Yeah,
section?
definitely.
But it was all smoking.
Yeah.
There was like no walls or
That's
like
right.
separate ventilations, or you know what I mean? It was
it was like you got 4 tables over here in a corner.
Yeah.
It's like that's the smoking section or the non-smoking section, depending on where you were at. And the rest of the sections were just fair game.
But there was a period where I can remember vividly as a kid where people were defending it. And,
yeah.
And then you're on the deathbed with someone who can't breathe. And you're like, oh.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think it's our responsibility. It's huge for us to be like, okay, let's take a break. Let's take a step back. And because we want to continue to learn. And for me, my heart on today is with parenting right now. Parenting right now is hard, right? It we always see the posts, and we see the throwbacks of like, remember when we could just ride around the neighborhood and stuff like that. And I was born in 83.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, I was always gone all summer, the neighborhood, and my cousins were down the road, friends were down the road. We were, arguably we were doing some stuff that we shouldn't be doing. Like we were blowing up stuff, and like that was not
I did that too.
Yeah. So it isn't always like rose-colored glasses where we're like, remember the times? I'm like, I almost blew off my hand legitimately in 5th grade.
But you didn't.
Yeah. I remember this time. Oh my gosh. I can remember it like it was yesterday. My cousin Nick, I love him to death. He was crazy too. And someone had a go-kart, like a homemade, with a gas engine. It was homemade. And like nobody got permission. Like, should we be riding this? There was no roll cage, no nothing. And we're letting it rip and go. I just remember seeing him going down this road and all of a sudden it like catching fire.
Oh my goodness.
Like we're like elementary, like 5th, 6th grade. And I'm like, oh, this is the day that I see my cousin die. Like, it was, he didn't. Great.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying like that was the way, but like parenting right now is very different and it's very much divided. And if anything comes out, like we're like, oh no, we've always done it like this or no, and there's a lot of peer pressure amongst adults. Like we think once you get through junior high and puberty, like peer pressure goes away and
it intensifies sometimes.
Very much so. Like, how could you not let your kid do that? And there's these camps, if you will. And I've seen this very much so, I've youth pastored for the last 20 years or so. And like, that's been my heart is young people. And that also many times would transition into having hard conversations with parents and trying to help. And the difficult thing is like when we're having these conversations at 14, 15, 16 years old, like God can do anything and change can happen. But there was always a part of me that would feel like, man, we're really late to the game here. Like these changes, these things should have been happening, at 4, 5, and 6, know? And so I've seen like these different camps where we're like, this world is so bad. And so we're over here and they're like, oh, you're just sheltering your kids, and I think there's some ignorance to that, on just labeling it and, or there's like, oh, we need him to be, aware of what's going on of the world and stuff like that. And so this isn't a judgment. This isn't, hey, I have it all figured out by any means. This is not like, please hear my heart on this. We just need to start having conversations and we need to start informing ourselves and then looking at the data, looking at what's going on so we can make choices that ultimately put our children in a position to thrive and succeed. And one of the biggest things right now that is like, that I'm seeing and is crushing my soul, and it's been this for a long time, is social media, smartphones, and the lack of guidance with our young people. And I think we need to just kind of like look at some of the facts that we can maybe start making some choices and understanding too, like if we're gonna hear this, because don't do what I do. This is what I do a lot. I'll watch a documentary and because I can't sleep a lot. And so it's like 2 a.m. There's been many times in my marriage, like God bless my wife, where I'm watching a documentary. I don't know if you ever watched, and then I get all fired up.
Yeah.
And then I wake up my wife at like 2:30 in the morning, and I'd be like, we're only eating meat. You know what I mean? Or like, we're never eating fast food again. And my wife's like, I don't eat it anyways. I meant me.
Thank you for the morals.
Yes. And then it fades away, So, I hope that when you hear some of this, you can just take it in consideration, pray about it, and then put a healthy plan in place if you're going to bring change. Because I've had these conversations with parents before and kind of shared with them what we're going to share and talk about. And then they just go home and like take the phone and flush it down the toilet. And I'm like, no, there's a real addiction there.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can't do that. Like physically is not going to go well for them.
Right.
And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit here. And so I was doing Montage Ministries, We did that for about 12 years. But there was a period where we're in Massillon, we're in our new building, and this was probably, 7 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
And like, I was getting exposed to like so much of what students were going through, because we would have like 150, 200 kids show up.
Right. This was a big youth ministry thing.
It
correct?
was. We did it for like 10 years. We bought an abandoned building, church building, me and my brother-in-law and my father-in-law, and fixed it up, and it turned into this youth thing. And we're like, okay, let's give them some Jesus. And then it kind of, blew up a little bit in a good way. And so we'd have 150, 200 kids every week show up and it was the most beautiful thing because it was so diverse. Every walk of life. There was at one point, I think 5, 6 school districts.
That's awesome.
Represented in this building. And from very rich to like kids who didn't want to go home. And so we're like getting like just bombarded with all these things that kids are going through, and I'm getting exposed to things. I'm like, what in the world is going on here? And something kind of prompted me in my spirit to start diving into this, because like the anxiety amongst these students was insane. The amount of cutting going on.
Yeah.
And I couldn't comprehend it. So I was like, okay, I need to start diving into this and studying this so I could try to meet them where they're at, because like, wow, this is crazy. Right. And the depression and just all this stuff that was going on. And so I started to dive into it, and I started to look into teen anxiety, teen depression, and ultimately led me to like teen suicide. And there were some statistics that I dove into that were staggering and very alarming to me. And basically, in a nutshell, teen suicide for a majority part of our country's history wasn't even enough to be a statistic. It wasn't even enough to register. Now, I know like things can go undiagnosed or uncharted, but literally it wasn't.
It was a very small percentage.
Very, very, very small. And would be more linked to like true like mental illness, which is a real thing, and
sure.
and something that needs to be addressed more and more. And then all of a sudden we see this surge, like this massive surge in not just the anxiety, depression, but teen suicide. And then at the same time that we see this massive surge, we see within probably 36 months of each other or so, we see Facebook launch. We had some like things before that, but
MySpace and different
things.
things.
But really we saw Facebook really launch, take hold. Then within this circle of time, if you will, we saw like Instagram, Snapchat, and then also in the same time period, we saw the subsidization of smartphones. Like they were very expensive. There was a time where like, you could, not everyone could afford, right? And so what they started to do, and this wasn't always the case, we started to roll it into your phone plan. So now you could make little payments, and we basically started handing out smartphones like Skittles. So you have like this perfect storm, and you see all of this kind of come together, roll out, and then we see this massive spike in teen suicide. To at one point, not too long ago, it was the second leading cause of death amongst like the age of, I think that link was like 13 to 25, somewhere in there.
Okay.
And so like I started like, it was like an oh crap moment. And I saw this, and then I started to dive more into it. And then I got into like some of the studies that were coming out from like Harvard, Stanford, and other places of the brain. And they started like just scanning brains and started monitoring brains. And there was this one study that came out that showed like the dopamine levels of a brain on drugs, on cocaine, and the dopamine levels on social media. And it was after a period of time. It wasn't just like 2 minutes on.
Right.
and they were the same.
Wow.
And
That's a staggering comparison.
nuts. And then that led me down the path of like, okay, what is dopamine? You know what I mean?
Sure.
And what does it do? And what we know is dopamine. You know, we're created in the image of God. Dopamine is amazing, the way that we're created, and we release that dopamine into our brain during times of intimacy, times of working out, times of fight or flight, and it like kind of overrides a lot, that dopamine, and it can make you feel good, and it can give you a rush, and that's good. We're created to have that and then reset, and then have that and reset. But dopamine does feel good, the release, so then we chase it sometimes. And then without even knowing it, if we're getting that dopamine released and pumped and something is making that happen, that's where addiction happens, right?
Okay.
What's fascinating though is the pathway of dopamine. Because dopamine is released and it lands in your frontal lobe. And your frontal lobe is your God-given filter, right? To where like I'm looking at you, we're in person, and I may think something, but like it hopefully runs through my filter, and some people's is not developed, but I'm like, oh, I'm not going to say that, it's not appropriate, or I'm going to word it differently. And what's fascinating is your frontal lobe, especially in men, isn't really fully developed until your young 20s, 20, 21, something like that. In women, it's not too far behind that. So now we have undeveloped frontal lobes that are being hijacked by dopamine that overrides it when we're on social media. So let's paint this picture. I'm alone in my room and I'm on social media, and all of a sudden the dopamine's coming. So therefore it's hijacking my frontal lobe, which is my God-given filter, right? So then I'm just, and it's just this cycle, it's repeating itself. And then, I'm seeing ads that come up and I don't look like that. So now I don't really feel as beautiful as that. And it's this cycle, right? Or somebody shares a photo, or, what have you. And then we start going down this cycle of feeling high anxiety because of this cycle. We already know without a shadow of doubt that exposure to our phones and social media stuff like increases anxiety, and we have a problem. But for a student, that's what I'm talking about as a student, they're alone trying to filter through what's real and what's not, which we already know is extremely hard. And it's even more so with AI, like what's real and what's not. Your frontal lobe is being hijacked. The dopamine levels are out of control. And then we're asking you as a 13-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 14, whatever, to just fully cope and deal with that. And then it's happening nonstop, because another thing that has happened in parenting through peer pressure from other parents, like, well, how, all this, this is amazing. How could you not let them have this, or don't you love them, or it's Christmas time, you don't want them to have a phone, you want them to be made fun of, you want them to be less of. And please don't take offense to this, but like almost like a teenage pacifier. If my kid is quiet, because we're living in a constant state of running with no margin as parents, as families, financially, mentally, all this stuff, and we're just like, I just need a moment. And fun fact, last night I couldn't sleep because my wife, since chemo, my wife's had some issues with her back, with ligaments and stuff like that. And it was really bad last night. So she put us in, like, we have this inclined bed that we got for her early on. And she's like full blown, like C-shaped, zero gravity. And she's like sleeping like in heaven. And I am a side sleeper. So I'm like, ugh. So I couldn't sleep. So I'm doing a little bit more research on this. Speaking of, like, I just need me time. Has anybody saw the alarming rates of hemorrhoids?
I have not gone down that rabbit hole.
Here's what's fascinating. A very high percentage of people go to the bathroom with their phone.
Yeah.
So now we are sitting on the toilets much longer than we ever have before. And it's not even about pushing. It's just about being in that position because it's me time. I need to just, and we're scrolling or news, social media. And I'm not saying that's bad. I do it all the time. Like, in fact, I've had to go to the bathroom so bad before. This is horrible. Don't judge me. Where I go to the bath, I walk into the bathroom, about to poop myself, but I don't have my phone. So I waddle back out and grab my phone. That's horrible. But anyways, I was just last night at 2 a.m. I'm like, oh my gosh. And like it's like 40% increase of hemorrhoids, and it's not a good situation. But side note, I say that because we're in a constant of like, me time, right?
We're looking for the reset.
Yep. And so therefore we're like, oh man, if I could just have my kid chill out for 15 minutes, which then turns into an hour, which then turns into they're quiet all night and I'm good. So we have this pattern in our parenting, and look, that's not an insult. Like, please, I'm not at all. I'm just, these are things that we're seeing that are like, it's not one particular thing that has caused where we're at. Like, that can be narrow-minded to just blame it on something. But it is a lot of these chips that have fell into the right place to form this perfect storm that we're dealing with. And so the Lord put on my heart, montage, doing all this research, and I'm like I said, it was like this oh crap moment. And I'm like, I gotta sound the alarms. Like, I felt like, and I was trying, so I tried to get it all on paper, and I was writing it, and I was trying to share it with youth pastors, and like, guys, this is a bad situation. And I have like this great melting pot of a youth group that is crazy with montage. Like, I've not seen it anywhere. The diversity that we had and just the different walks of life. And I loved every minute of it, but I felt like I was getting a true dissection of every walk of life, but yet there's a common thread here of this anxiety, of this depression, And then shortly after that, we have a student in Massillon who took their life. And then we had another one, and then another one. And then we had some students in Perry. And dude, it became a full-blown panic. And there's a lot linked to, it wasn't just all depression, and that, there's a lot to that unfolded. But I was, and a lot of things were birthed from that. Like, it was crazy. Like, we were kind of the epicenter of the nation. And then we had like people coming in and speakers and parent groups forming, and it was scary. But just kind of like anything though, sometimes, you're in this heightened awareness, and then it cools off, and then it kind of just, and I just feel like as parents, we need to start being able to have these conversations and not feel judged, not feel threatened, but also in the same breath, we have bought things from Costco that were delicious. And then we were sent an email from Costco saying, that's been recalled. And immediately we'd throw it away. Like, we bought these beef sticks, and I was like, these are amazing. And, and then Tara's like, Costco just sent out an email, and I think there's ground up humans in it. Or I don't know, there's not. But like, there, and immediately I didn't like sit and try to argue. Like, I don't know, I think it's still pretty good.
You just made the change you needed to.
Right. And I wasn't offended that I had already ate a bag and a half. I was a little scared.
You're just praying it goes well.
I was a little bloated. I had to take my phone to the bathroom.
I was going to say, those hemorrhoids come back around.
But I was like, okay. And I feel like, but we're in this, like I had mentioned earlier, this pattern of, well, if I let my kid has a phone and they're on social media, and then I hear this, well, now you're saying I'm a bad parent. So now I'm offended. And now I'm going to defend some things. And there is definitely an argument of some positives, right? We can't just say it's all trash. What I am proposing is, I don't think it should be allowed to minors. I just don't.
It's an interesting take.
Because in the same breath, we don't let our kids smoke. We don't let our kids drink. Why? Well, at least in my home, I'm not saying that like, a glass of wine or drinking is horrible, but like until you are an adult and you have a fully formed frontal lobe brain, you know what I mean, to make hopefully wise choices, we shouldn't be letting a 13-year-old do it. And I think that's where we're at with our young kids, and the amount of anxiety that we're seeing. It's just not worth it. Also, another thing that I didn't even dive into back then, because it really wasn't, like, we didn't talk about it, I wasn't aware of it, is sex trafficking. Like, it's very uncomfortable to talk about this. And most of the times, if you're scrolling through and Tim Tebow or someone's talking about it, like, you'll listen to it, but then it becomes so uncomfortable. I don't know about you, but I just like, oh my gosh.
Right.
And then you're like, you study a little bit and you dive into it, and like, Ohio,
major hub,
has been consistently top 3, top 5 trafficked states in the country. And where are they grooming or finding these girls?
Snapchat, social media.
Social media. They're not showing up at a school function, the weirdo in the back, and you know what I mean? Like, no, it's on social media. Like everybody's aware, like, the founders of all these social media platforms do not allow their own kids to be on it. Isn't that somewhat telling? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what we have is this massive, like, amount of anxiety amongst young people. And we need to figure this out, because then they're becoming adults and carrying that same amount of anxiety and building on it. And it's a fragile culture right now. And I don't mean that as an insult, but it is. And everybody is set off by the littlest thing, and we're all running with no margin, and we got this short fuse, and like, we need to figure this out. Like, numbers don't lie. And the way I know this is true, because I've had these conversations through the years with parents, and in a very unhealthy way, they went and just took it, and their kid flipped out. And then they come back to me and be like, yeah, that's not going to work. They're actually stronger than me. And I'm pretty sure they're going to beat me up. You know what I mean? Like, there's a real addiction. And I personally, wholeheartedly, don't feel the few positives in any way outweigh the negatives. And so I get parents all the time, well, then what do you want us to do? The schools are making us have them. We have to do this. Like, I don't want my kid to be the weirdo over there that, and so a couple things that I think is important. If your kid is on social media, one, know that, because I get this all the time, well, I'm friends with them. You're friends with one of their accounts.
Or it's not like they can't make sure that you don't see.
I mean, Snapchat 100% was built on the premise of sexual morality. We know that. Like, let's build an app where you can send pictures and they automatically, disappear. Like, come on. Was that to send your family photo? You know what I mean? And then think about that. Like, and this is the real deal. Like, a picture gets sent, right? Because you're the cycle of dopamine, frontal lobe, you're not really whatever. You feel insecure. You see all these models there. You want to feel loved. A boy is showing you love, so you send a picture or vice versa. And then someone screenshots that picture gets shared everywhere. You literally, in that moment, because your brain is being hijacked, feel like your life is over. You can't see past that moment. And it's just not worth it. And so if they are, then you need, and you're thinking, you know what? Do your own homework. Dive into this yourself. Do your own research. And if you come to the same conclusion, like, oh crap, this isn't really good, and this is a vicious cycle, then just like any addiction, you need to put together a plan, a proper plan on how to step this thing down, because your kid is addicted to that phone. So what I suggest many times is it starts with a conversation, a very real and raw conversation, to where it's okay to admit that, like, hey, I made a mistake as a parent. I thought this was a good thing. Here's what I've learned. Share with them what you've learned. Share with them the science and the studies and the things behind it. And then in love, be like, I hope through all the mistakes that I've made as a father, that you know, and this isn't always the case, but hopefully it is, that your kid knows through all the mistakes and stuff, because we do make mistakes, we're human, that I love you, that I would give my life for you. And yeah, daddy's stressed sometimes and there's adult things going on, but you know I love you, right? And because you know I love you, you don't have to necessarily agree with me, but just know that I feel like we need to have this conversation and put a plan in action because I love you. And I'm asking you to trust me. Maybe I haven't earned your trust, but I'm asking you to trust me, and I'm asking you, that even though you're not going to agree with this, I am your father. I am your mother. This is what we're going to do. You start with that conversation, and then you start implementing timeouts. And I know this sounds silly, and parents are going to be like, I just go in there and I grab that phone. I'm the man of the house. Well, that's cool. Let me know how that goes when they're about to stab you, because they're legitimately addicted to that. And then, so timeouts, doing these things. And then what we do is, so our kids get a phone at 16. And I do the Apple iPhone for a reason, because I can go in there and I can just take things off. And the phone still operates as in the sense of, like, they can call me, they can FaceTime me, and their GPS works. And that, our kids work for us. Right. And so if my boys are on the job, I want them to be able to FaceTime me and be like, hey, Dad, what should I do with this? Right. But yeah, I can. And so what we've tried to do is very much so make that phone as unattractive as possible. I don't have music on it. There's no social media. I don't even put games on it. We have a game system in a family room where everyone's around. We don't do online gaming, but we have games and stuff like that. And they have plenty of time to go on there and veg out and play games and watch movies and stuff like that. It's awesome. But on the phone, I want to try to make that as unattractive as possible. And then we have a full open policy, even with my daughter who's 19. And we've had to work through some different things, but I'm like, I have access to your phone at any point. While you're living in my home and I'm under my roof, at any point, I'm allowed to grab your phone and look in it. And if that becomes a problem, then we need to have a conversation. And then for, like, my boys, and the phone doesn't go upstairs. It stays downstairs. And during the day and stuff, they just don't have it. Like, if they don't need it for, like, safety or they're going somewhere, they just don't have it. And there are, just Google it, the amount of studies out right now that are showing every year you wait to allow your kid to have social media dramatically increases their chances to be successful. Just dive into it. It's so fascinating. Because you're allowing them to develop health, you know what I mean? And again, this is not like I know everything or anything like that. This was just like the Lord revealed me, like, oh, there's a situation here and I don't understand it. 7, 8, 9 years ago, dove into it, started seeing some alarming things. And then when you have to sit with a group of students because one of their friends just took their life at 16, at 15, or younger, and everybody has an opinion, and everybody will come out like, well, that's this or that. No. Or they had a bad home life, or no. We can't just say that, because we're seeing it in every situation and type of, and there is a common denominator here. And again, I'm not saying it's 100% this, right? There's still a lot of factors that go in that, and I think we got to be careful about speaking in absolutes. But what I am saying is there is a very much direct link to a lot of this unhealth and social media and addiction of the phone. And for me, if that gives my kids a little bit better of a chance, a fighting chance to cope and overcome the evil of this world, then I'm going to do it. And I'm not going to apologize for it. And I'm not going to defend it. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to judge if you don't do that. That's fine. But also, too, in the same breath, I feel a responsibility to share some of this stuff. Because I've had to walk through some really hard things with a lot of families and a lot of students over the last 20 years. And that's really hard. And we need to get to a place where we're doing better. And that we can continue to learn again. Oh, wow, this is amazing. And then you get an email like, hey, good chance if you eat that, you're going to get sick. Or if you continue to eat it, and then we discard it. I hope that we get to a place with love that we can share these things and be like, okay, let me take a look at this. Also, too, I think it's over 90% now of boys are exposed to pornography. Boys, not men. Boys. Yeah. Little boys. And this is such a topic that nobody wants to talk about. And being exposed to pornography at a young age is devastating. Devastating. I don't care what anybody says, it is devastating on so many levels, let alone when that addiction, and it is an addiction, happens, and then they carry it into relationships, and then they carry it into their marriage. I mean, it's just nuts. And literally, everything is right here. Yeah. And the reason, too, it's not enough to just have safeguards in or take things off is because kids are so smart. And there are so many ways to go around and send a text with a link or go past any parental,
right,
protection you can put on that. So that's why it's not just like, oh, we're safeguarding everything, we're sheltering everything. I constantly have conversations with my kids, especially my boys, about sexual morality. I very much want them and am very affectionate with their mom in front of them, and like, I squeeze my wife's butt, I give her a kiss, and I'm like, hey, I want them to see that healthy love between a husband and wife, and it grosses them out, and that's okay. But I'm like, you do know how you were made, right? You do know how you came into this earth, and they're like, we don't want to talk about it. And then my kids, they're like, you guys only did it 6 times, because we have 6 kids. I'm like, no, we didn't. But I very much have these conversations with them and make them aware of this and share with them my past and my struggles. And then we try to make the phone unattractive so they're not just always picking it up. Not all, So hopefully that'll become a pattern as they become an adult, because pornography is just, it's a whole nother thing, a whole nother topic, but it's devastating.
It is. And it's devastating to the people who are exposed to it.
Absolutely.
I think we miss that so often where
yes.
It's, oh, well, how could you possibly go search this thing out?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the consistent themes, as you've been sharing throughout today's episode, that I've been kind of mulling over is the world is thirsty for beauty and we don't know how to get it.
Yep.
And what social
That's
media
good.
often does is promises us beauty.
Mm-hmm.
And whether it's the dopamine highs, whether it's the illusion of connectedness with other peers, or even in terms of the conversations about sex trafficking and things, the way that a lot of that is presented to people who fall prey to it through social media. And this isn't the only way, but it's definitely one of the main ways right now.
It's a massive driving factor.
Exactly. Is the promise of some sort of intimacy. And that's not even sexual intimacy necessarily. It's just the intimacy or the relationship that people are yearning for, where they want to feel seen. Yeah. And so Katie and I aren't parents yet. We look forward to being parents someday, but we've intentionally waited because we've wanted to build other things and steward our calling in other areas.
Will I be Uncle Mike or Grandpa Mike?
Probably Uncle Mike.
Yeah, I like that, Uncle Mike. Don't talk to him. Kids.
Everybody needs a crazy Uncle Mike.
Yeah, don't directly stare at him.
No. Don't look him in the eyes.
Don't feed him after 9. He won't leave.
But even though we don't have kids of our own yet, we have done youth ministry for a long time, and we've worked with, young middle school students. So people coming in like 4th, 5th grade, heading into middle school, and then also students who are seniors up to college level. And doing that youth and young adult ministry, we've seen a lot of these things where we are seeing the effects of it. I mean, we also grew up in the area where, you said you almost blew your hand off when you were, when you were young, or you'd race go-karts and do different things.
We were stealing gunpowder and making bombs. I'm like, why did we have access to gunpowder?
The 80s and 90s were a wild time.
It was bananas.
But I would do similar things. We'd run around, we'd build all kinds of crazy ramps, we'd jump off roofs, we'd light things on fire, just a lot of dumb things.
Do you remember the dart yard game?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We would throw those off the roof at my brother. And one time we stuck him in the back of the leg.
Oh, my gosh.
I'm like, what were we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not advocating.
That frontal lobe wasn't fully developed.
No, it's still not.
But I think in the conversation with people, one of the most important aspects that we can introduce, whether it's about, hey, how do we limit social media or phone time, how do we make things unattractive, is not just the limitation or restriction of something, but it's the introduction of something new.
Yeah, that's good.
And in the introduction of something new, I think that's the invitation into beauty. So that the way that people consume beauty is different. Nature is a really great option, but I understand that that's not a driving force for everyone. Yeah. Katie and I love hiking. We love going and sitting by a river or something. My mom hates hiking.
Yeah.
She says she doesn't sweat. She sparkles. And, she's not one who really enjoys that, but she does appreciate nature, appreciates animals and different things. But there's a lot of different ways that we can encounter beauty, whether that's conversation with someone where it's more intentional and less distracted, whether that is doing something artistic, even if you're not overly great at it, whether you're coloring, whether you're, for us, we're musicians. And it has to be a discipline where even this week, I came to a realization early in the week where I was like, I'm not operating with the margin that I need personally. And I spend a lot of my time with an instrument in my hands because we run our music lessons business and we perform regularly and we do these different things. But as a form of delight or as a form of soaking up beauty and instilling margin or refilling those wells, I'm having to go and be intentional. When my brain says you have a to-do list that's a mile long, I'm having to actually shut my phone off and go, okay, I'm going to play for the next 45 minutes. I'm going to spend some time soaking or delighting in this medium that allows me to experience beauty.
And parents need to do that so that they can lead their kids, and it's going to look differently.
Right.
Like I am very much a promote or for busy kids. What I'm not for is the crazy busy train that is pushed on parents that every kid needs to be in travel ball, every kid needs to be this and blah, blah, blah. And like you talk to parents and they're just like fried.
Right.
And they're never together because we have multiple age, and kids and stuff like that. And that's a whole nother thing, but that can be very unhealthy. So what we've tried to do as a family, as many of you know, we started a company, M6. Maxheimer's our last name. We have 6 kids. A part of their schooling is they work for us and they learn the trade and they learn the business side and stuff like that. So we're very much busy together. We're remodeling our house together. We're doing different things together, because when you are a teenager with raging, out of control hormones, you know what I mean? Like, you have to be proactive with those things. You have to have conversations. Like, I probably daily have conversations with my boys, especially, and my wife with my daughters, but both sometimes. But like, hey, like, it's good that you find this person attractive. It's good that you have this crush. It's good, you know what I mean? So now what do we do with that? And the problem is, even if they don't have full blown access to just crazy pornography, when they're online, like, everything is over sexualized. And when you're a 13-year-old horny boy, it doesn't have to be a full blown naked person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I remember like the Sears catalog and bathing suits, you know what I mean? Like, I'm aging myself, I'm 42, you know, but like, we have to be proactive with that, acknowledging that this is healthy, and having these conversations, and you need to be talking about sex, and you need to be talking about the hormones in their body and all this stuff. And if you can't, then you need to hit the reset and ask yourself why we can't have these conversations. And we need to start implementing healthy ways to have this.
Sometimes that means breaking the cycle of how it was introduced to you too.
Absolutely.
Because I think that we grew up in an era where even if we had, whether it was youth leaders, whether it was parents, school, I mean, I remember sex ed classes and different things where
6th grade, I was like, what the?
Yeah. Ours started in 5th grade, which was crazy.
In 5th grade, yeah.
And the idea of entering into that age demographic, I understand some of the importance, but I also think we jump the gun, or we don't approach things with sensitivity.
Yeah.
And then even from the church standpoint, I mean, I used to joke with Kate, I was like, somehow we will go and try and, have these conversations around marriage and modesty and all this stuff. And the church wants to act like as soon as you say I do, your sex drive arrives.
I'm pretty sure that's why I got fired several times. Because
several times
from youth ministry. Nothing made me more mad than this lie that we would teach in youth ministry about the line. Know your line, the line. And I'm like, what? We're not created with an off switch. Like, we're just not. When we're there, and we would teach about this line, but the problem is that line moves.
It does move.
Absolutely. Like, oh, we're just holding hands. Oh, we're just hugging. Oh, we're just,
Well, I think it moves
above the jeans, above the, let's just be real about it.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I touched a booby. And then, and like, wait a second. No, I tell my boys, like, look, you're not created to stop. So don't put yourself in a position to have to stop. Just know that, like, it's good to have these feelings. It's good to have these hormones. It's good to want that. That's okay. But understand that, like, if you put yourself in a position, you're gonna fail morally. And here's why you don't want to. Here's the ramifications, of that. And I shared my story with them all the time, what I had to carry into our marriage and what my wife didn't have to carry into our marriage, and how that has affected it. And we've had to work through different things. And yeah, because, you have a sex drive very early on. And so, and then when they get ready to get married, we're going to have these uncomfortable conversations that they're not going to want to have with their dad. But I'm also maybe be the pastor at the time, or marrying them, hopefully, or something like that, about what it means to be a good lover, what it means to be, in a marriage, and have these conversations and be very real and raw and honest with those things.
I think that it's just as much about acknowledging the potential pitfalls as it is about needing to introduce, I keep using the word invitation, but to reframe for people what lies on the side of making choices that maybe go around those pitfalls or help prohibit them for the time being, but then also introduces excitement and understanding when you go into marriage, because intimacy is a language.
Yep.
Do we even discuss the fact that you're going to have to grow in your ability to communicate?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how do you approach those topics where you're not trying to be raunchy or anything, but I think especially
I am sometimes.
I think especially in Western church culture, man.
Yeah.
You know, as we try and go across this entire conversation in the Western church, we're so worried about how do we prohibit this, that we instill such a fear in people, where I feel like kids inherit guilt and fear because it's, well, everything is framed badly.
Yeah.
Or it's, well, it'll be great when you get to marriage, but then it's like, okay, well, how do we have these conversations where what can you expect when you get to marriage, or how do you even prepare?
I remember
well?
Me and my brother-in-law, we used to work together. We were on this job. We were doing a job together, and there was this guy about to get married. And my brother-in-law, I love him to death, but he's not like as open as me. He's very like, and he can be weirded out by some of those conversations. Like I remember one time at Target, we were shopping, and I grabbed these cheetah underwear. And I was like, TJ, we should get these for your mom. And he was like mortified. And that's our relationship. Anyways. And this young guy was somehow talking, and it somehow it came out like he can't wait to get married because he's going to have sex every day. And multiple times a day. Like just nonstop. Like, woo! And TJ just looked at me and was like, should we tell him? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's a and just a real conversation about, that's not how it's always going to be. And,
right.
Anyways.
The other thing that I was thinking about as far as like the need for beauty and how social media or technology can be a roadblock for that. But also thinking about, we grew up in an era, when I say we, I mean you and myself and Katie and Tara. We grew up in an era where, sure, maybe boredom would get us into trouble sometimes. But I think there's
so many fascinating studies though in science now behind boredom.
When I was going to say
how good it is for you. Yeah.
Even as songwriters, part of what we're trying to do is instill more places within our week where maybe it is sitting and staring at a wall for 5 or 10 minutes or something, where our minds are able to hopefully detach from the consistent stimulation that comes from being available. Because it's not just social media. As business owners, I am horrible at clocking out.
Yeah.
I check my texts, I check our emails, I check our social media pages, I check all these different things constantly. Because I want to make sure that I'm providing the best service for any potential clients or any current clients. Yeah. But it's to a detriment of self sometimes, where I'm not allowing myself the space that I need, not only for my mind to just decompress, but then even for me to pursue greater excellence in other areas that I'm called to and that I feel passionate about. And we've had these kind of two demographics where it's, okay, well, boredom is, I forget what the old phrase is, but it was something like boredom is the devil's like handy or playground or handiwork or something like that. Yeah. And so you grow up pre-social media or in the early stages of it, and it's, well, we can't be bored because there will be pitfalls. So then we now have these devices that never let us be bored, but there's even more pitfalls.
Yeah.
And
we very much promote being bored. We very much like, hey, it's cool, go figure it out. And some of the best, fun, most imaginary times with our kids have been just out of boredom and out of just like, hey, we're making this happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just feel like as parents, or really anyone, adults, but let me just speak specifically to parents. You don't have to do what you feel like everyone is telling you to do. And if you feel like you're doing something because you don't want your kid to be left behind, or you don't want to feel socially awkward, or you feel peer pressure or judged, or like, that's not a good reason to continue to do something that might be harming your kid. And also then, guess what? When your kid is filled with anxiety and maybe depression and just always on edge, that rolls into the dynamic of your family, which ultimately rolls into the dynamic of your marriage. And it is just this avalanche and this cycle, if you will, that just continues. And I hope and pray as we kind of close out today that you'll just hear some nuggets and you'll take it to the Lord and you'll do your own research. You'll do your own due diligence and just, I guess, take it to the Lord, because I've seen enough hurt. I've seen enough dysfunction within the family, and good church-going families, right? Mm-hmm. We see this cycle, and it doesn't have to be that way. It really, really doesn't. And I'm never, I want so desperately to have a spirit of humility. And sometimes I got to check myself, and it's easy sometimes to be like, stand on something, right? But like, I think that's something that's very much lacking in our culture and church. But anyways, so I want to get to a place where I feel like I figured out or anything like that. But there has been things that I feel the Lord has shown me and my wife with parenting, with doing youth ministry for the last 20 years. A lot of trial and errors, a lot of, look, I was overwhelmed with Montage. I was ill-equipped. I had no idea what was going on with all this hurt. And so I just dove in and said, okay, well, I'm going to study. Okay, I'm going to try to do my best. I'm going to learn. And there was mistakes made. But from that became this hunger and this desire to continue, right? And I am very proud of our kids. We have 6 kids. I'm very proud of the humans that they are becoming, the respect that they have. Like, we get constantly feedback from customers all the time. Like, I didn't hear your boys argue one time up there, like, that's crazy. Or like, how does that, they're up there listening to worship music or what? And again, we got our own stuff we're working through, and we're constantly, but that's the thing right there. We have to constantly be open to receive new information, to be challenged. And it's okay to admit that something you were doing might not have been the best thing. Something you were eating forever, when Diet Coke first came out, it was the greatest thing. And then like, oh, by the way, aspartame is kind of linked to cancer. And then we got all offended about it, right? And like, I've been drinking this stuff for it, and then the third leg grows or whatever. We just got to be open and humble. And we, as parents, we got to start being for one another. Stop devouring one another. Stop judging. Stop being envious, and again, this is a cycle that, I'll just say it. If you're not managing your phone and social media as an adult well, don't expect to be able to have your kid handle it well.
Sure. It goes back to the whole, you can't lead people to a place you're not going.
Yeah, absolutely. And as much as I have tried to frame this for parenting, these same things apply to adults. And you probably could do the same thing in your life,
sure. Yeah.
In a way. And I get it. Social media is a fabric of our society and a fabric of economical growth and business and podcast. I get all that.
Yeah.
But we need to start figuring out a way to introduce this in a healthy way. Because again, and I'll be done with this, there was a time where smoking was socially acceptable. It was considered healthy in our country. It was prescribed for stress sometimes. Pregnant women were smoking and it was fine. And then people started to die. And we're seeing the anxiety, we're seeing the depression, and we're seeing the suicide rates. We're a place they should not be. And again, it's not about saying, oh, it's this one thing, or it's just social media, but it is very much a driving factor of the anxiety levels and the depression and the self-esteem stuff going on and the sexual morale. It's hard to justify it anymore. And so I would just consider you to look at the stuff, and especially if you're a new parent, think especially around this time, right? I see it all the time. Like, I don't even know what to get my kid. Well, I can get him a new phone, or I can get him a phone, and they're so excited, and, oh, look at this phone we got him, and I'm the best parent in the world for that day. And that feels good. Sure. I've done that. I've made those mistakes, and my wife's like, what are you doing? And I've had to backtrack, and I've had to ask for forgiveness and be like, hey, that wasn't great. Just really think through it, because there's just a lot behind that. And I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of parents and a lot of families. And don't just assume because everything looks perfect on social media that you're the only family going through this, right? Because we're really good at masking and hiding. And I can tell you, I've been in every type of home. Rich, poor, city, country. And there's a common denominator that can affect it all. And so I would just encourage parents to take a look at it.
Sure.
And be wise and seek the Lord, and don't be afraid to humbly move forward with changes.
Sure.
Because a lot of times we get on this bandwagon and be like, and then we let everybody know on social media what we're doing as a parent. You know what I mean? We're like, and if you're not doing this, then you're horrible. And I'm like, whoa, you need to be humble, type deal. So I hope the heart comes across in this, and my hope and prayer is that we can receive this and move forward with it.
Let's give just a couple potential actionable steps.
Yes.
So one thing that has worked, or that I've been experimenting with even for myself, you can go into the settings of any phone.
Yep.
And you can actually turn the color gradient to black and white. The amount to which the phone becomes significantly less attractive when everything's in black and white is interesting. And sure, it's there. It still functions. Sure. I mean, you can take phone calls or texts and different things. But especially the social media piece, whether that's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm a YouTube guy.
Yep.
I watch a lot of YouTube.
I do too.
I like...
I think the older you get, the more you lean into that. I don't know if that's
maybe
facts.
I mean,
I don't know.
I think we like documentaries or information type things.
Yep, like to consume that. Yep.
So one potential option is, whether it's for yourself or your kids, try that. Go on whatever model phone you have, or whatever specific. If it's an iPhone, Android. But not just that, like tablets and different things do this too. So whatever your actual device is, go and try that and see if it helps regulate some of that attraction or some of that preoccupation. I would say another option is you called it timeouts, but you're basically saying where you shut the phones off as a family and you say, okay, for the next half an hour, the next hour, we're going to play a board game, or we're going to go for a walk, or we're going to go for a drive, or we're going to do something.
And my point with those timeouts, one, they're just healthy in general for parents and everybody. Take a time out, go do something. That's amazing. But also, two, that is the process of what I'm just going to say it, weaning your kid off of social media.
Right.
That is, in my opinion, in my heart of hearts, the best option for your teenager, for your 8-year-old, is to not have them on social media. And there's many more studies, many more facts out there. Dive into it. Don't be afraid of it, just because, a lot of times we stay away from truth because we don't want to be convicted. But I am telling you, the best thing you can do is wean your kid off of social media. And if they want to get on it as an adult and they want to do that things, hopefully they have things in place that can help them manage it in a healthy way. But it is not good in any way for your child to be exposed to social media, period. The studies now back it up. The statistics back it up. The success rate of that backs it up. And so timeouts as families is good. And so you can't just go and rip it away. You got to treat it just like because they are addicted. We have phantom notification. That's a real diagnosis. What is that? Is when your leg and the muscles shake like you got a notification on your phone, but you never did.
Interesting.
That's a real thing. That's called addiction. When you get the shakes because you haven't had a drink, that's an addiction. And you can't just go, you have to, in a healthy way, wean them off. Start with a conversation. Share your heart. Share these statistics. Truth is powerful and it'll set you free. And then put a plan in action to wean them off. And then once you've kind of weaned them off, make their phone, continues in that process, unattractive, black and white. Take the games off. Take the music off. Well, they really like that. I used to have parents all the time like, well, how are they going to get up for school in the morning if they don't have their phone? What?
They still sell alarm clocks.
Oh, I will buy you one. I will. I remember being with these parents and I said, whoever needs an alarm clock, we will order them right now. Because your kid having their phone in the room at night, what? And I think as adults, these things are great to manage because we need to manage our social media. We need to manage our intake on our phone as adults, and it can get way out of whack. But as parents, I am highly encouraging you to implement these things and then test it, right? I love how the Lord in something, he says, test me on this, right? Or he gives us promises. You can think I'm wacko. You can think I'm an idiot. These are real statistics. Study them. But test it out. Test it out. Limit it. Do these timeouts. Wean them off of social media. And then evaluate with a pure, open mind. Is their anxiety better? Is the dynamic of your family better? Is your kid being a little bit more respectful? Just test it. Because if it was better when I'm on it, then by all means, continue. But that's not what you're going to find. It's just not. And I think taking these steps as parents let alone just the safety aspect, the sex trafficking, what they're being exposed to, even if it's not porn, just half naked people and just oh, this is beauty, or they're seeing other families on there that have the perfect life. And, if we had this, or if we had this, we're instilling at a young age to always think the grass is greener on the other side. And it's guys, we need to figure this out because this is not a great situation. And man, nobody wants their kid to be filled with anxiety and depression and thoughts of harm and feeling less than what God created them to be. So, yeah, I've been to many seminars and people have wrote many books on this, and I've really been obsessed with this for the last 10 years. And sometimes the speaker's brought into the church and they're told hey, you can't just tell them that their kids can't be on social media. You got to give them all this stuff and let them come to that conclusion because we don't want to offend. And I'm screw that. Your kid shouldn't be on social media, period. Just shouldn't. And if that is offensive, I'm really sorry. Look at the statistics, look at the studies, look at the dopamine levels, look at the frontal lobe, look at the rise in anxiety and depression and self-harm, and just take all that in account, implement change, and tell me you don't tangibly feel a difference in your family dynamic.
I think it's important too. We can wrap up with this. I think it's important as you go and look for information, as you dig into studies like what Mike's done. be prayerful about what suits your specific needs, because it's not always one size fits all. So these are large principles that we're talking about in terms of the timeouts and the different things that go into trying and making sure that you're helping regulate social media and technology use. But we also understand that, I mean, from our standpoint as business owners, there are advantages or certain necessities that come.
And there's a difference between technology and social media.
That's true.
There's very much a difference between AI tools, ChatGPT, which those things need to be monitored too, or using the internet, access, running a business. Like, I teach all my kids that.
Yeah.
In a very healthy way. There's very much a difference between, those two things. And yes, you can do marketing and stuff like that, but, and this is a whole nother thing, but what we're seeing AI do is revert almost back to the guerrilla marketing campaigns. We're seeing a lot of things shift to what we told kids were going to be there. It's not there anymore. Like, we're seeing a massive shift with that. So yeah, I'm not saying like we need to shelter them and they get a candle. Like, no, technology is good. And it is very restorative, and they need to know how to use this in a healthy way and be a part of that. But there's a massive difference between knowing how to use AI tools, knowing how to use the internet, knowing how to use ChatGPT and all these different things, and scrolling on TikTok for 4 hours in your bedroom by yourself.
Sure.
Massive difference. And I think parents, unfortunately, sometimes we lump that all together, and numbers don't lie. And it's not a great situation.
Yeah.
In that, so.
Yeah. But I think it's just important for different family dynamics to definitely take these tools, take the research. And the one thing that is overwhelming sometimes about research or trying to find truth online is the amount of conflicting sides that you get. And then we're now in the stage where, with social media in particular, it's been around long enough that we're starting to get some more resolute information. And a lot of the studies and things that you're mentioning,
sure, yeah,
it's been around long enough to have substantiated evidence.
Yes.
So that's why we're talking about it. But as you go and seek that, know that there might be conflicting evidence. And that's where part of the intention of being prayerful about it is also helpful, because it's going, okay, God, help me to find the truth and help me to understand what's going to be best for my family and what's going to be best in how I approach this topic with my loved ones.
Absolutely. That's so good. Because, man, that's so good. Because honestly, I think it comes down to test.
Sure.
Right? Like, I've had conversations, and I know we need to wrap this up, but I've had conversations where men are defending pornography. Cool. Okay. We can go over the numbers and statistics and studies, and right, like you're saying. Is your marriage better or worse?
Right.
Because there comes a point where, like, you can throw out the studies and stuff like that. Like, if your life isn't better, if your kid's life isn't better, if their anxiety levels aren't better, if you're not feeling a better dynamic in your home, then please ignore everything I've just said. And that's okay. But you're exactly right, because we can... And here's the truth. You can always find someone in a study to support the way you want to think. Without a doubt. And that's fine. And this isn't a judgment thing. This isn't an attacking thing. Here's some stuff. Here's based on my experience with working with students and families the last 20 years. But test it. Because I've seen families test it. And I've seen the difference. And but I think what's not acceptable is to just be okay with the status quo and to think that this is okay and not try anything.
Right.
Because it isn't a one size fit all. What I do with my family isn't, and that's a pitfall that we fall into. Like, this is working with me and my family, so you all need to do this. That's not healthy either. But here's some principles that maybe you can build on or look at or, take into account. Because the heart of this whole thing, my heart is, I'm around kids all the time. And there's so much hurt and so much that we're asking them to carry and digest in a healthy way. And it's not great. you know? And so
social media can often put the weight of innocence in the hands of the ones who should be protected.
Wow, that's good. We should end on that.
All right.
And have a t-shirt made of that. That was really good.
Thank you.
I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate
know,
you
I
too,
really
man.
do. I'm not just saying that. I love you. And I appreciate this time. And I've missed it. And it feels really good to be back.
I've missed it too.
Yeah. So
you want to end in prayer
yeah,
for
let's
us?
close in prayer, brother. It's good stuff. Lord, we come to you, and I thank you for this time with my brother Nate. I thank you that we can just make it a priority to have a platform to talk and hopefully share. And Lord, I just pray that whoever's listening, if there's a spirit of offense, Lord, I pray that you just remove that. I pray that there would just be an openness to just look at some of this stuff. And Lord, ultimately, the reason we're having these conversations is because there's a lot of families that are going through stuff. And parenting is hard to navigate. And we feel attacked, and we feel insecure, and we feel like maybe we're alone. And Lord, I just pray that your spirit would precede this conversation, Lord, and that hearts would be softened, and that we can just start having these conversations, and we can start looking at the facts. We can start looking at things and just be aware of it, Father. And I pray that forever who is listening and maybe wants to implement some of these things or start having these conversations, Lord, that you would give them clarity, that you would give them peace, and that you would give their kid peace and clarity, Lord. Lord, I just love you, and I thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Yeah, it's good stuff, guys. Much love.